Love that in the Empire. It's one of the few places I've been where you hear Tupperware opening as you come on stage. I'm literally... People, and you, is that chicken? People eating chicken and rice. Why, Lenny? You're funny, you see? Like that. So this is a direct outcropping from your online work, isn't it?
Yeah, this is me getting older, Lenny. This is where I'm at now. Because, you know, like I love the online stuff and I still do it, but the podcast for me feels like, I think I do it because I get to learn so much about the people that I'm so interested in.
How many do you do a week?
I probably do one a week. We have 3 guests, so in one day. But it's so different from TV because you know what it's like with TV? It's okay, cool, we've got to get to that bit and we've got to throw to that bit. And then once, you know, when I was doing like Later Show, for example, heavily edited, you've got different parts of it. And there'd be so many conversations that were so fun that will get missed. So I think for me doing a podcast felt like, oh, how can I capture that and not get those conversations missed? And also I needed a thing. I needed my USP of like, when I do this pod, I need like what's the in? I don't want to talk about me and it be a funny podcast because I've got my other things to be funny with. I wanted to have a podcast where I was like, I need a thing that is a continuous theme and then beginning, middle, and end of where I was.
This is the theme.
Yeah. So where I was in life was always, do you know what it was? It was every time I'd go on TV and it'd be like, so Mo, man, oh, it's great to have you here. But you was working in retail. And I was like, yeah, but you know, I've been doing this, you know, I've not been doing it long, but long enough that I'm like, I've got some other stuff to talk about, guys. Retail was a long time ago. But I know for television, it was the... like,
let's go back to the very beginning. When I hear those words, I'm like, oh, for God's sake. When do they stop doing that? I'm 67. Let's go back to the... let me go put my pajamas and my slippers on, man. This is going to be a long show.
But it's like, sometimes I'll be there to... You know what it's like, especially live TV, for example, and you've got probably 3 minutes to promote your book, your tour, your podcast. And it's like, so tell us, what was it like working in retail at Christmas? And I'm like, oh, guys, come on, man. I'm on the clock.
But that's just about research. That's
yeah,
about,
sometimes.
I went on a show recently where the host came out and talked to me outside. So you wait in the like chairs and you're waiting to go on. And the radio host came out to talk to me. For about 10 minutes, he put 3 records on to talk to me about what was going on in my life now. Yeah. And then when we went on air, it was like a seamless interview. Yeah. Because he'd done his own prep work. Yeah. And I really admired that. I thought, oh, good for you, man. That's not, let's go back to New Faces. Yeah, yeah. What was it like on Tiswas? You know, it's like, you always want to talk about now because now is where it's at. Now is what you're doing. You know, you're acting in a play or you're doing this new show or now is what's getting your blood going. Yeah, yeah. To be made to go backwards is a kind of a weird thing for us because we're like, hello, I'm doing this now. And it's maybe it's hard if you're not doing anything, but for me, I'm always doing something. So it's no, I'm doing this now.
We are going to go back today, though.
Let's go back to the very beginning.
Go back to the beginning. Can I just say before we start, thank you so much for doing this because I remember. I don't know if you remember the first time I met you. I met you at the BAFTAs backstage.
Didn't I come and say hello to you?
Yeah, you did. And
you got beef with me or something?
No, but I couldn't believe you knew who I was.
Of course.
No, I swear to you, I didn't know if you knew who I was. I was proper starstruck, you know.
You were real funny.
I was very much like...
Are you shy?
I am.
Because when I came to Masked Singers, you were a bit weird.
Was I? I wasn't weird. Nah, I don't do that.
It's like, do you have an earpiece in or something? But you weren't talking to me very much. So
no, so you know...
freaked out.
Okay, you know when you...
The only other black person here and he's not talking to me.
You know when you got revealed, right? Especially when you was going to get revealed, I was like, I think this is Lenny. But then there's a series of questions, but it's really like, can I get in to ask the question? And then because I'm like, so I didn't get, so when you look at it, especially you look at the edit, I'm like, I didn't get to.
You guys are very competitive. It's very funny watching you
I know, so
fighting for the jokes and fighting for to get your foot in the, just let me say what I want to say. It's very funny. And when I was on the panel, I felt so freaked out by it. I just thought, this show is the bizarrest show in the world. But I did love it. I do like it as a show and I do watch it when I'm at home. Yeah. It was weird being on it though. Yeah. Because I was like, I don't know. I was wearing a mask in the car. I had a T-shirt on. Do not talk to me. I had to wear gloves. Oh dear.
But it's mad because it's weird because when it's TV, and I've grown up with you. Do you know what I mean? I've grown up in the sense of I've watched you on my television. So even meeting you at that time for the BAFTAs was like, oh, bro, I'm meeting like one of my heroes. But he knows who I am, which is always, even for me to this day, if anybody reaches out and says, hey, what's up, Mo? Like, how are you? I'm like, oh, right, you know who I am. Because I think,
kept saying to you, every time I met you, I kept saying we should meet and talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Whatever. When's that going to happen, by the way? When is
Here we are. Here we are, Len. Here we are. Sir
we're
Lenny.
on telly.
Yeah, here we are. So I just wanted
nice.
to say thank you so much.
Well, thank you
for
Thank
doing
you for
this,
keeping
man.
the faith. There's so many people who are trying to, Gina's in Costa Rica now and London's in LA. People are kind of, they're not giving up on working in the UK, but they're certainly not feeling the love, as it were, in terms of broadcast television. But what's great about you is you seem to be body swerving that.
Oh, thanks.
And go, well, I'm going to do this now, and I'm going to do this now. You're not, you're going, this is where I am, this is what I want to do. Yes, I'll go to America, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to keep doing this because my base, your main fan base is here.
Yeah.
But now you found out that there's another fan base too, which is brilliant. So congratulations.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Sir Lenny. You know what was really interesting when I seen you at Buckingham Palace?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, you look so comfortable there. Because I've never been before.
Not even a biscuit, When I got a CBE, they didn't even give you biscuits. I was like, what is this place? Not even a cup of tea for the CBE.
Because obviously me and my mum was so shy. We were like, raw, like we're in Buckingham Palace. And I remember I see you, he was like, oh, what's going on? You're right. Hello, mum, you're right. So yeah, come. We're going in this room. I said, all right, Lenny's been before.
Right, Jeff.
But like with the pod, obviously, like you're from Dudley, right?
Yeah.
And you got 7 siblings.
3 brothers, 3 sisters. I lost my brother Seymour last year, and I lost Hilton a couple of years ago before that. So it's, when you got a family, it's like we have to look after each other, and you get into a thing where you think people are going to be around forever.
Yeah.
And you go, they're all old, the majority are older than me now. So Hilton passed away when he was 74. Seymour 76 when he died. We got to stay on that and be in touch. Saw my sister the other day. Saw Bev, my other sister. I'm trying to be more present in their lives because you can get into a thing when you're in showbiz, particularly of, yeah, man, they'll be all right. Oh, come and see my show.
Yeah,
but actually, sometimes they can't see your show, so you need to go and see them. And I'm trying to do more of that now. It's important.
Was it hard finding your voice amongst so many siblings? Because I've only got 2. I've got 2 of my older sisters. I'm the youngest as well.
Well, I got there was Seymour, Hilton, Bev, Kay. The 4 eldest, and they were born in Jamaica, and me, Sharon, and Paul were born in the UK. So they weren't really. Kay was 4 years older than me, so she was in our lives. But Seymour, Bev, and Hilton were kind of grown-ups and had families and stuff. So I'd see them, but they weren't in my life as much as Kay and Sharon and Paul were. So, when Hilton and Seymour and Bev were around, you kind of were on your best behaviour. And Bev lived with us for a bit, so she would like hit you with a tea towel. Yeah. Because she was like replacement mom when mom wasn't there.
Yeah.
What do you mean? But Bev, I love Bev. Bev was my oldest sister. And they were very close to us, but they were very kind of, you're the kids, we're the grown-ups. And that was interesting. Seymour lived with us for a bit, and then he left home, went and joined the RAF. And we were like a unit, and we were all proper Jamaican. We grew up Jamaican. We spoke Jamaican. We were spoken to in Jamaican. We ate Jamaican food. And then when I got to be about 14, 15, I do it as a bit on stage, but Mum literally stood us all up and said, you must integrate, you must talk to these people. You can't just be in the house doing this. You've got to go outside and you've got to talk to them. Because it was a time of rivers of blood and, race riots and stuff. And my mum said, you've got to make friends, otherwise you're not going to survive around here. Because Dudley was, rivers of blood was Wolverhampton. And if you want to N-word for a neighbour, vote Labour was down there in Smethwick. So we were in the middle. And it was racism every day at school we had to deal with it. I don't know if you had to deal with it so much, but it was a living, breathing thing going to school every day.
Yeah.
And I found it. My dad never taught me to fight. I took my daughter to judo, judo. I just took her to everything.
Yeah.
And then when I was about, Lexi Sale said to me, "You should go and do Wing Chun," because I was making jokes about how I can't fight. And so I went to do Wing Chun with Rodney Moylon, and I really enjoyed it. And I just thought, you can't get distracted if you're in a fight, you know. I remember this guy called me a name, and I said, "You can't call me," and I did this like this, and I got distracted and punched me in the eye. You can't get distracted in a fight, Len. You got to pay attention. So there were all those things going on, and Seymour was brilliant. Seymour was the kind of, he never spoke with an English accent ever. He wasn't like us. It was, everything was that. You must pick up a brick and hit them in the face with it. What? Pick up a brick and lash them with it. I'm not doing that. I'm 8. I'm not going to hit somebody with a brick, Seymour. But he was deadly serious. And because when they first came to the UK, Seymour didn't come till 64 or something. And they were being attacked on the street. But imagine walking down the street and somebody just jumps on you and starts. And they had to carry sticks and stones to fight people off with.
And what year is this we're talking?
63, 64.
Oh, right.
They were being attacked. So they fought back. And Jamaicans had a really funny reputation. Because Jamaicans didn't take any crap from anybody.
Yeah.
So Seymour and Hilton did not take any crap from anybody. And they would fight for themselves.
Yeah.
And I was very proud of that, but they never taught me how to fight. And so I'm on my own, go to school, people jumping on me, kicking me. We had an England schoolboy boxer at my school. And it was all right in the end. But because I was a big kid, he used to practice body punches on me. Henry, stand here. They would do that to me. I mean, it was at school, it was a trip.
So did you feel like, especially being like a young black boy in the Midlands and being Jamaican, it kind of, you had to have a bit more of a thicker skin as well, do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because otherwise it gets punched through. I mean, there were black kids in my school. There were about 3 of us in my class. And it was challenging. But you know, when you're a kid at school, you just think this is the normal thing. Right?
Yeah, of course.
To me, it was just, this is, sometimes I get attacked at school, sometimes dogs chase me, sometimes people pick on me, but I've just got to get through this. And then there were good parts to it. I made friends on the park. I had these 3 white guys called Greg, Mac and Tom, and they became my best friends on the park. And park was different to school. Park friends were more likely to stick than school friends. And so I still know Greg, Mac and Tom now. Greg died last year. But they're still in touch with me, and we still write to each other and stuff. So they were the ones who encouraged me to be funny. And interestingly, the audience where I used to get up and be funny were predominantly white. I was probably one of 3 black people in that entire room. And so I got used to working to an all-white audience for ages and ages. And when I alternative comedy came along, and just after that, people said, "Oh, well, there's black clubs, you know." I had no idea. And then I got booked to do a gig with just black people.
Yeah. What year is this, roughly? Because you started when you was like 16,
Yeah,
roughly.
in the 70s. Near the end of the 70s, I got invited to it.
Yeah.
And it was a dance.
Yeah, a dinner and dance.
And respectable, big people food.
I've done one of those back in the
food and rice and then Lenny Henry tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And then I walk on and they all got up and they walked towards me. All these black people walked towards me to the stage and stood right up against my face, like here, like this. And and I was like, I don't know what to say. I was really scared because I was so used to people sitting like this to watch the show. I'd never had a whole audience get up and walk towards the stage like this far away from me and look at me like this.
Yeah.
Wanted to see the kid off the TV. And I said, you're freaking me out. You're going to have to sit down. And they went and sat down, and then I did my show. And it was different because at that time, I hadn't worked out that my authentic self would be all right for this audience. I was still doing, "Hello, Betty," and I was still doing impressions and characters and telling jokes like people I'd seen on the telly. But actually, me, myself, and I could have just talked about my mum for an hour and been funny to those people. But I didn't do that. I just did the act that I was doing because that's what I knew what to do.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until really, it took about 12 years really to get into a place where I was able to talk to any audience. So when I did Live at Unleashed in 1988, I walked on and I'd done 9 nights in Birmingham at the Hippodrome, and it was fantastic, thank God. So I'd done 9 work in progresses, but packed out, and my audience, and they loved it. And I'm thinking, oh, it's at the Empire. And London's different, man. London audience is like, yeah, go on then. And I'm like, okay. So I did the first night, and that was tough, and I got lots of notes and stuff. And then I went on the second night. And then the night we started filming, there was a black woman with her husband, and she started talking to me. I said, you can't. I said, I'm making a film, love. I said, I'm making a film. Literally, they've just turned over. I'm making a film. You can't just chat to me like. But actually, you can. She was right, and I was wrong.
Yeah.
She was asking me about, are you excited? What's it like? Oh my God, can't wait to see you. You're going to do Delbert. You're going to do Deacus. She wanted that. To me, now that would be in the show.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was very uptight about it. Love that in the Empire. It's one of the few places I've been where you hear Tupperware opening as you come on stage. I mean, literally, people, is that chicken? People eat chicken and rice. Why, Lenny? You're funny, you see? Like that. Great.
Did you ever feel that when you first started doing stand-up comedy, when you was doing the impressions, because you started doing them at like 16, is it New Faces show, right?
Started doing impressions when I was 12, 13.
Oh, okay.
So I was like you. I was like, but not like you, because all I was doing was watching television and copying whatever I saw.
Yeah.
And I would write down any joke I heard, I would write it down. I had exercise books full of, somebody stole them actually, exercises of jokes that I'd seen on the telly or that I'd heard. And I tried to memorize them. And then, what I didn't realize is there was this other thing I was doing. And I didn't pay any attention to it. But I was improvising all the time. If something happened, or if somebody had a weird haircut or tattoos or was wearing a shirt that was way too open, I would say something that would be funny. Yeah. Much funnier than the jokes, actually.
Yeah.
Because this guy that was me. I was only 16, but if I knocked the table over, or if I tripped over and fell, or if a woman had a weird laugh, I'd be on it immediately. And I learned eventually that guy who can just chat and say stupid stuff and talk to people, that's who I am.
Yeah.
So you can't just reduce it to crowd work. Lots of comedians talk about crowd work now. But it wasn't just that. It was a comedic brain working at a time when I'd been told, you've got to get your act together. You've got to have an act.
Yes, yeah.
And so in my early years, the first 5 or 6 years was just me trying to figure out what that was, not realizing that actually that bit when you talk to the old white guy with the hair, and you compared him to something, and then you made a joke about his wife doing something else, not taking the mick, but just chatting.
Yeah.
That's you. So you need to encourage that. This other stuff will always be there, but the thing you've got that's natural with the audience, that's gold dust.
Yeah. How long did it take you until you started doing stand-up, when you started realizing what you were doing? Because it's really interesting for you to say, like, when you started realizing what improvisation was. I only realized it when I was in secondary school and I was doing drama. And I do, a funny thing, and, we'd be like, we want you to devise a play, and you're in a scene and go. And we would just come up with something, and everyone would be a character. And I remember my teacher was like, yeah, this is improvisation. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like,
to a good school.
Yeah, so but big up to my drama teacher. My drama teacher, Miss Simpson, she was so many, when I think of some of the people, like Ashley Waters, for example, he went to my school. Everyone puts her in such high regard because she was the one teacher that wasn't, yes, she was teaching you, but she was almost like, I don't know, it's one of those teachers that was just telling everyone, you're really good at this and you're doing this. And yeah, you should just go and do that, rather than, hey, you've got this gift and you're wasting your time. Do you know what I mean? But that's when I realized what improvisation was. And then I think once I studied it and I started looking into, performing arts as a real creative, like, something I could learn, I was like, oh, this is what this is what that is. And then as I started to do stand-up, I started realizing what a callback is, or what crowd work was,
the craft of
a
it,
punchline.
Yeah.
When was that for you?
Well, because I was watching all these comedians on television, I was getting an idea of, I'd watch people like, this is going to be old, Tom O'Connor would come on television on Wednesday at 8, and he would open the show, and it would always be like a 6-minute monologue.
Oh yeah,
and there was like an overall arc, when men go out to the club. And Tom O'Connor had antecedents in a guy called Al Reed, who would do these narrative stories where he played all the characters. And I was very interested in that. I'd never seen people do that before. So I'd go and go, oh, you're doing a story. This is a long story. And there's laughs along the way.
Yeah.
But you're not stopping and going, a guy went into a bar. You're the guy walking into the bar. And they're not really jokes, but they're funny because you're creating dialogue with all the characters. So I was sussing out that at the age of 14.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a guy called Dave Allen who used to sit exactly the way you're sitting. And he would tell jokes, but he would also he'd have these think pieces where he would talk about what he thought about religion, about church, about Ireland, about living in London. And so, this is lived experience. So, this is all good. So I was I've been told by various people, you need to be a sponge at this stage because it's not that you're not very good. It's just that you're all over the place.
Yeah.
You're trying to do lots of different things. And in a minute, you're going to figure out what it is you actually want to do. And I remember I got as far as three of a kind. So 79, 80, 81. 81, I was on Tiswas, and I was still doing the same act that I started doing with Hello Betty, thank you very much. I was still doing all that. And Paul Jackson, who produced and directed Three of a Kind, said, you need a bit of help with your act. Why don't you go and sit with Kim for a bit? So Kim Fuller, who's this, thank God for Kim, who used to write on Not on the 9 o'clock news, and he wrote for Jasper Carrot. He came to see me. I was doing a week in Luton.
Yeah.
Kim came down for the whole week. And we would have lunch and chat, and we'd talk every day. And the characters that I was doing on Three of a Kind were Delbert, Deacus, Theophilus P. Wildebeest, the preacher. And with those four characters, Kim said, well, why don't you say hello, and then why don't you do Delbert, and then why don't you do some more stuff, and then why don't you do Deacus, then why don't you do more stuff and do the preacher, and then why don't you do more stuff and then finish with Theo? And that was the template for my show for ages, because it really worked. It really, really worked. And then when I came to do Love and Unleashed, I'd made an album for Ireland just before, and we'd done Bad Jokes, which is funk jokes, because I used to go clubbing all the time. Loved clubbing. That's where all the Delbert stuff came from. And I thought, I'm going to do funk jokes, funky jokes. I'm going to try and sing it, do a melody, but have the punchlines. Yeah. And so suddenly me and Kim did that. And it just became a thing. And he was my guy for a very long, I still love him very much, but we stopped working with each other. But for a good 12 years, him and me just used to go, what we're going to do next. Yeah. And we go to New York and we watch comedians, not to nick stuff, but just to watch what they were, Mario Joyner and Charles Barkley and all the black comics. We'd watch what they were doing. And we saw Seinfeld a lot, and we saw all these people. And there was just a different vibe in America. And you realize that in America, it's an art form. It's a kind of, stand-up is kind of like a proper art form and craft. And there's a thing to learn about it. And it's very much about who you are. Yeah. And we were talking earlier about, if you watch anybody on Johnny Carson, early doors, they come on stage and their set is nearly always the same, unless they're a character comedian. They come on, they say, my name is I'm from Pittsburgh. Woo! Oh, Pittsburgh people. And then they do joke about Pittsburgh. Yeah. And then they go, my mum and dad. And then they do stuff about mum and dad. And my sister. And then they finish with something that happened at school or college. And then that's the end. Yeah. So they've basically given you their CV. So the first set is a CV. Yeah. And if you get invited back on Johnny, it might be about now. So a bit like the show, it might be about what you're doing now. I was doing a club in such and such. It's about where you've been, what you've been doing. Yeah. I was making a movie. I did a sitcom, and I was working with this guy. And it's just your act is about what you're doing. And then later on, your act is about who you are. Yeah. So it's like a weird full circle, but the who you are in the present isn't who you were when you first started. Yeah. Now I'm talking about, I'm sorry to jump ahead, but I'm talking about being a dad. I'm talking about having a partner for the last 15 years, when my previous partner was famous. I'm talking about living not where I used to live. I'm talking about the stuff I do now, the books I read, the movies I watch, the television I love. I'm talking about being one of 3 black people where I live. It's funny. It's just funny because it's observation, and it's the authentic version of me that is very different to what I was doing. And I love that. I love it.
Because you had your show as well, the Lenny Henry show.
Lenny Henry
Big show, man.
Whip. Yeah.
That show, I remember, because I think I grew up with you on my television as, you was always on my TV, but when I seen the show, I think I was like, oh, like, I know Lenny's a stand-up comic, but he has a show with characters.
Which show are you talking about? Are you talking about the show? When were you born, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 88.
You were born in 88?
Yeah.
So by that time, I'd done Lenny Henry show twice. I'd done Lenny Henry Tonight, and I did Delbert for 2 years. So in 88, I was on the second round of Delbert, and then I did a South Bank show, and then I made True Identity, and then I came back in 99, and I thought I've got to start all over again because that didn't work.
Yeah.
And then I did Chef,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the 90s, I did another variety show, which was late at night on a Saturday night, and that's when I did Theophilus B. Wildebeest and all that kind of stuff. And I was doing stand-up. I was doing very, interestingly, in the 90s, I was doing very race-based stand-up, and I didn't realise I was doing it until I pressed the thing where you go, how many times have I said black in this set? It was like something like 3,085.
Yeah.
I'm very concerned with being black.
Yeah.
And I had white friends who go, Lenny, you do know you're black, don't you? You do know that we know you're black. You don't have to keep telling us. Because I was doing lots of stuff about black people do this, and because I was inspired by Richard Pryor. And I thought, yeah, maybe I need to think about that. So at the end of the 90s, I stopped doing Chef. And then my mum died in 1998. And I've been doing more drama than comedy. I was still doing sets, but I was... And then Clive Tullow from Tiger came to my house, and he produced a couple of documentaries with me. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to make people laugh again. Because my mum had just died. I was really down.
Yeah.
So I said, well, let's do a sketch show again. And I'd said, I don't know whether it was right or wrong, but that I wouldn't do a sketch show again.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, 45, 50 or something. I don't want to do a sketch show. It's hard work. You got to have all the characters, got to sing, got to dance.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard. I know why Dave Chappelle quit that. That's hard work, doing a sketch show.
Sketches are...
So it's like, I'm going to do 6 episodes, and it's going to take 6 months, and
prosthetics, makeup.
It's just everything. So I went, yeah. Because you slightly remember, you forget all that. You just remember that you had a good time doing it. So I said, let's do Lenny Henry in Pieces, and we won the Golden Rose of Montreux. And then suddenly I'm enjoying my work again, and it was a beautiful thing actually. The 2 years of In Pieces, then BBC said, "Oh, can it be more like the Lenny Henry show of old?"
Yeah,
and we went, instead of going, "No, it's going to be," I went, "Yeah, all right."
Yeah,
and then I carried on doing that.
When you had your show, what did it feel like being like?
I was the only black guy in my own show.
Yeah, that's.
It was me and Chov McDonald.
What was that like though?
It was.
Was it a realization of like, I'm representing a whole community?
Well, it was weird because
I'm breaking down barriers in the door, and I want to represent myself and who I am. And the reason why I asked, because when I had my show, I was lucky enough to do a show with Big Narstie before I got my own show.
That is the craziest show I've ever been on in my whole life. I only did it once, I'm telling you now. It was the weirdest, craziest, most bizarre show I've ever been on. He fell asleep in the middle of the show. Yeah. He had a nap while the cameras were running. Then he woke up and started speaking in Liverpudlian. He did a Scouse voice for a really long time in the show. And it was so funny. I was literally not understanding. And then there was a man in the shop. And you were doing another show. It was like you were doing another show. I was like, where's it gone now? And you were doing a competition with the audience, and Narstie was asleep. And I was just, oh God, it was funny. Was that good fun to do that show? Do
you know what?
Was it stressful?
No, it was everything.
You had to wrangle it.
Yeah, because it was stressful in the sense of you spend maybe a week, you've got this segment, and you've got that. And once the cameras go on, Narstie's like, I ain't talking about that. Listen, we're going to act out Shakespeare. You get a guest like for yourself. And he's like, let's do Shakespeare. Come, boom. And I'm like, bro, we got a whole different bit we got to do. But then there was almost a beauty. There was almost a beauty in, for me, it was a crash course in TV because I'd never done any TV before. Yeah. So being able to do the first ever thing that on that, mainstream TV at 11, that just felt like it was proper like Channel 4 in the sense of Channel 4 had come up through the shows that were unconventional, Didn't know what was going on. So
Yeah.
for me to be on TV with all these cameras and everyone, I was like, well, like, I guess we just have to make this thing.
You had to roll with it.
Yeah. But then I think the minute I then got my own show, it was like, oh, I've done that show. Now I need to separate in terms of that show had an identity and theme and people liked that about it. And I was like, well, I have an idea for what I want my show to be.
Your show seems to be more disciplined.
Yeah, but I also I was really inspired by a lot of the American shows as well. So a lot of
Letterman and Carson and
Letterman,
Conan.
Fallon, all of those shows where I was like, oh, it's like big shiny floor. And the reason why I was inspired by those shows because they went big. They would have a band, someone would come out, they'd have a guest, and I was like, I want to be a black man who has a show like that for us.
Well, Arsenio, do you know Arsenio Hall
Yes,
is?
yeah.
Well,
I watched loads of that show
That
before I
was
done
a
my show.
segmented show.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about. And he wants to represent black culture and white culture too, but he mainly wanted to say, I support hip hop. I support black actors and actresses and directors. And I think that's I don't know if we're going to have it anymore, but I think that was a thing that that made me go, yeah, I want to do a show like that. I mean, I didn't do it, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I think the word that you just said, I watched a lot of whatever it is you said a minute ago.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You can't sleep on it. You got to actually do the homework.
What was it like though for you having your own show?
Great.
Like,
I loved it. It was a lot of pressure. And I didn't see it, but somebody showed me, when we were doing Three of a Kind, somebody wrote a really nasty letter to us. And the producer thought he'd better show it to me because there was a threat in it against me. And for the first time I thought, oh, some people feel a way about me being in this show. I better watch myself. But when I got my show, I was joyous because Kim was there and I had all these writers, all lovely Oxbridge people who I could talk to. I had a lot of energy. I was also they called me a producer. But what I would do is I'd come into the room like this and I'd just kind of go and explode and have lots of energy, and then I'd leave. And then they would go, I think he wants to do Hill Street Blues. I think he wants to do a soul singer. I think he wants to do, and then I'd come back and I had a choice of the material I could do. They would write it, and I would either script edit it, or I would help, or I would say, well, I want to do this, but can it be like this? I had a say in the room. So for the first time, and of course you do it different now, but I had a wonderful writing team and they wrote to me. They didn't just write and then dash it at me and say, you're doing this. Because I'd done shows like that. These guys were respecting me and saying, we like that idea about such and such. Can you do that? There's a black member of the royal family that I don't talk about and you should be him. That's a funny idea, but it never went on the air. I saw The Shining and I wanted to be a kid with psychokinetic weird powers, and we did that. We never went on the show, but they respected everything I came to the table with, and we would try all of them. But the thing that I noticed that worked every time with the characters, anytime I looked at the camera and went, "Good evening," that something happened with people around the country. Oh, I love that old bloke. And then Delbert, same, Delbert, looking at the camera, talking to the audience, telling them what was going on in Brixton that week. They connected the characters. Sketches were up and down, but the characters were like solid every week. And it made me think, after 2 years of that, maybe Delbert should have his own show. Yeah. And then we did a Delbert sitcom and it was fantastic. It was huge. And but there was a big responsibility. And in Delbert, the responsibility was to represent those kids who were doing pirate radio and going clubbing and being harassed by the police. Brixton Riots had just happened. And it was just, I want to do a character that can say all that and talk back to the police, and because I had mates who talk back to the police and be funny. Yeah. I didn't want it to be depressing. I wanted it to be joyful. I wanted there to be music in the show. I wanted him to be a dandy. So where, I wore an Anthony Price suit when I did the first Delbert monologue, and Kim said it cost more than what he got paid for the entire series. I didn't know. But I said, he would wear this suit. Yeah. And suddenly, the costume, darling, well, I know where to get that. So it was a vibe. And we got nominated for a BAFTA for first series, which is great. Never got it, but it was, I think Victoria Wood got it. Judi Dench got it. And, but I was like, okay. I really like it. I better keep going with this.
What was it like going to the BAFTAs at that time?
Great. I mean, I was 20-something or other, 23 or something. And we'd been nominated for a BAFTA, and Judi Dench and Victoria Wood and all these people are there. and they read your name out and you come up on the BAFTAs, and it's, it's very, very exciting. And of course you're a bit sad when you don't win, but my God, you're at the BAFTAs and everybody's there. All your peers are there.
Yeah.
And the people, you don't meet the judges, but there's a real thing of, well done, you did well. To be narrowed down to the last 4 is very, very good indeed.
Did you feel like a voice of a generation at that time of having your show when you've got things going on outside of, what you're doing, like you're saying, like, police beating up people, but also feeling like, if you go on a television show, being the only black face, they're like, well, let's ask Lenny. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there was a pressure. I think there was a pressure on, I don't know if you have this, but because I was doing all these characters, there was an expectation that I could do any character, any voice.
Yeah.
And so there was a generic, hello, there was a generic African voice. My family is Jamaican, but there were like 4 types of Jamaican voice I was doing. I was doing street voice. I was doing Midlands voice. I was trying to do American voice. I was doing all kinds of voices. So it was almost like, because I was the only show, I was having to do everybody.
Yeah.
And it was respected. Nobody said, that's not how we talk, except for Christopher Asante. He literally took me to one side at London Weekend Television and said, you're from Zimbabwe, right? When you play that character, Zimbabweans don't talk like that. And you need to go and do some research. Because I was just making it up in my head. I've seen people talk like this on the television. I was just doing that. But it made me really want to be respected for that. And be respected for voices. And I remember when I was doing Comedy of Errors, this wonderful guy called Femi did the voice work with me. And I was close, but he just made me just do that, tweak it. You can do all the tweaking if you're prepared to do the homework. Yeah. And I became about the homework then as an actor. But yes, you're right. I think you're on television and you've got your own show and people make an assumption that you want to be on Amnesty International or Comic Relief, or you want to say something about the violence in the thing. And often I go, well, no, because I'm not, you need to go and talk to a politician about that. I'm a comedian, I'm an actor, I'm not that. But actually sometimes you do want to say something because you want to show solidarity with somebody who's been getting racist emails from people and they're down and they put them on Instagram and you want to just say, I'm really so sorry, Solidarność, It's important to show solidarity with people who are being crapped on from a great height by people who don't understand what it's like to be black in the public eye. Or who have racist or bigoted opinions. It's important for us to show our solidarity. Yeah. But on the other hand, I don't ever want to go on Question Time or whatever it is. Can you imagine? What would I say? You'd be sitting there going, oh God, is there a moment where I can be funny here? Because there never is. Yeah. No, not at all. There's serious questions being asked and you're there not representing properly at all. And when comedians do go on there, I think they think, oh, you'll add a bit of levity. But all we're thinking is, oh, God, that's a really good point. What can I say? All you're thinking is that. And the jokes slightly get parked. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's, if you're on
Have you been asked to go on those shows?
Nah, they ain't asking me to go on that. Definitely not. Me, who does, count the cans, wheel up the blood. Oh, Julie. Definitely not. I wanted to ask you, what was because you had a real shift from that comedy to serious drama when you're doing Othello. What was that decision based on? Because, with someone who does I feel like anyone who can do characters' impressions is a really good actor. So when you started doing Shakespeare, what was that shift? Because I've always shied away from Shakespeare, mainly because I've always struggled with, I'm dyslexic. So Shakespeare, I just about know English. So then for me to change it to Shakespeare was always, especially when it came to acting, felt like, oh, this. And I think that's also a big part of why I never went to drama school, because you have to do your classic and you've got to do your modern. And I was like, I struggle with Shakespeare.
Did they not have, weren't there tutors who could help you through the dyslexia stuff?
There was, but I think I was always I can do this by myself, especially when it came to acting, comedy. It only took me until probably 2021 until I asked for help of writing, stand-up. Yeah. And even that is with a close friend. And when I think of writing, it's more, I still write it. I ask for what he thinks, and then he kind of helps me edit it and takes it out, or say, oh, this is really good, or you should really expand on that. But I've always been quite when it comes to asking for help, especially with any of my creativity stuff, I'm always like, I can kind of do this.
Well, look at what you did. I think when I fanboyed you, I said, you do it all yourself. You write it, you speak it, you act it, you do everything, you edit it.
That was on Twitter. I think you reached out to me.
Oh, you were.
I think that was the first time.
I was such a fan.
Oh, thanks, man.
Because you know, and the fact that I didn't really know you were dyslexic. So the fact that it's in my family too, and it's really interesting to overcome that and to get where you get to. Because look at you. It's a brilliant thing. Nobody taught me how to write. And here's the thing, I didn't know that when I went into that room with those guys and I was doing characters and voices and pitching scenarios, that's writing. That's producing.
Yeah, someone told me that once I started doing television.
Nobody told me that.
Yeah, I think before then I didn't know that. So someone,
you just think you're goofing around.
Yeah, I swear to you. Someone had said to me like, oh, you know when you're doing these characters and you're coming up with these ideas for videos, how do you do it? And I was like, well, I'll get my phone, record it, and just it. And my thing then was like, I need to record it. I'd have to do it in a minute. So whatever scenario I'd already pre-made, and again, I'm not talking to anyone, and I'd fill in the voices afterwards. But I remember someone in television was like, yeah, you're writing. And I was like, oh.
That's what it is, yeah.
Because I thought you had to get a typewriter.
Even if but I mean, if you think about the best time you've ever had with your mates down the pub, and they're like, beef, boff, that's writing.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do in a television room with your mates is replicate that vibe when you're at a party. And my brother Paul can make people laugh at a funeral.
Yeah.
So when Paul's being funny about people's clothes and their hair and how they're behaving in church and stuff, and people are roaring with laughter, he's writing. And I didn't realize that. So, you can be very on the back foot in television because the writers you're working with have all been to uni. They're used to handing in essays on time. They're used to having a point of view or a take on a subject matter. And you're sitting there feeling a bit kind of, nobody's ever asked me what my take on anything is. I don't listen to the Today programme. I know what's happening outside. I don't know what's happening on the news. And then you suddenly start going, well, maybe I'll watch the news. Maybe I'll listen to the Today programme. But you still bring who you are to that material. Yeah. You're not suddenly become Amal Rajan just because you watch. You're going to be you. Yeah. And so the most important thing you said earlier on about authenticity is be your authentic self, but bring it to the room. Because if you don't understand the reference, you just go, what's that? I don't understand that reference. And then you carry on. You know, it's about being who you are, not being who somebody wants you to be. And it took me ages to figure that out.
You know, when you made the switch to the stage and you was acting, what was that like? Because was there a feeling of like, but yeah, we know you as a comedian. Do you know what I mean?
What was lovely?
Was it almost like, was there a pressure for you to be like, take me serious because I can do this? Or was it like I'm going to show you a totally different side to what you've ever seen? Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it was ever conscious, but I did know that I'd got, after my mum, lots of things coincided with my mum passing away, but the period after my mum died, I'd been in stand-up for a really long time and I'd toured a lot and I was tired. I'd done a lot of TV shows. And I was doing more drama. I did Hope and Glory for a bit, which is a school drama. And I was enjoying being a head teacher, and that's why I did all my further education. And I just wanted to do something different. And I did a show called Cradle to Grave, which is about how much I love music. And I went all over the country and I had a band with me and everything. It was all right. It could have been better. And I just thought, God, okay, now what? And then I started to go, what else is there? And Radio 4 offered me a factual documentary series called What's So Great About? And it was me doing a kind of radio show / podcast about the things I love and the things I don't understand. So the first one was William Shakespeare. Yeah. Because like Richard Pryor, I thought all Shakespeare was white people with a cabbage down their front going, how thee they thought they thitheth, thank my felf and thitherful. You know, it was just very much a middle class thing. And I just didn't get it. And so I started to explore what it was I didn't get. And I talked to Adrian Lester, Patterson Joseph, Sir Peter Hall, Trevor Nunn, Judi Dench. I talked to all these people, and they all said, until you've learned it and got it in your mouth and learned what the words mean, you're never going to get it. And so Barry Rutter from Northern Broadsides Theatre Company in Halifax came down to London to do a thing in a room like this, where he taught me the last speech of Othello, which is soft you, a word or two before you go. I have done the state some service and they note, no more of that. I pray you in your letters when you shall these unlucky deeds relate. Speak of me as I am, nothing extenuate, nor set down aught in malice. It was that. So he taught me that for the whole day. And at the end of the day, do you know what? The tingle I'd lost temporarily doing stand-up, suddenly that was back. I said, do you think I can do this? He said, yeah, I think you can do it. I think you can do this. And then he took a while to offer me something, but then he offered me Othello at the West Yorkshire Playhouse, and I did it. And I was really frightened. I was very, very frightened. Because, yes, you're right. Here's my lane. And suddenly I was changing lanes.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people who came up on the first night, on the press night, waiting for the car crash.
Yeah.
What's this going to be like?
Oh, really?
Katanga, my friends. He's going to be Othello. What's that going to be like?
So they weren't expecting it to be, because I would just
There was
assume,
a lot of people not expecting it to be any good at all.
I just thought people might think it was more funny. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like
Well, it's one
like,
of the greatest tragedies ever written.
but like I feel because it's you, I just feel like people might be like, he might give it a comedy twist. Do you know what I mean? Like,
there's no comedy twist in Othello. You have to put
you might
that
break
to
the
one
fourth
side.
wall down and stuff and start speaking to the audience. Do you know what I mean?
But I knew I wanted to respect it. And when you're working in rehearsals with all those other people, pardon me, you realise, they have a laugh off stage, they make you a cup of tea and there's banter. But when they're on stage, it's like, they're as serious as a heart attack. And Othello, I'm the only black person in the company.
Yeah.
And they're all looking to me like, yeah, what are you going to do? And I go, and I just listen to people. And the guy who played Iago, Conrad Nelson, was brilliant with me. Because usually when you do Othello, there's a thing with the guy who plays the bad guy, Iago. You have quite a lot of scenes together and there's a bit of rivalry there. But Conrad didn't really do that. He said, we're going to get through this and we're going to do it together and I'm going to have your back. Don't worry about it. So he was still a bastard, but he was actually, as an actor, my colleague. And he made it easy for me to be Othello. And I was really focused just on doing the play. And then suddenly the reviews came out and the reviews were very positive. And they were all really happy for me. But I never read the reviews because I didn't want to get up myself and I didn't want to get into a thing of, I've had great reviews, I'm a Shakespearean actor now. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And then the only time when there was a crossover with being a stand-up comedian and being in a play was I was doing, I'll do this quickly, I was doing Comedy of Errors at the National Theatre and I'm playing one of the Antiphilises. And Bunny Christie's made this set where everything moves. There's a building, there's a town square, it's all on computerized.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting to go on to be with this woman who thinks I'm her husband, but I'm a twin. I'm not her husband. But she's invited me to her place. So what normally happens is, as I walk on, her block of flats comes like this, and we walk into the flat, and then we go up in the lift, and then there's a scene up in the lift in her apartment, whatever. So I walk on stage, and there's no and we're waiting, no, and nothing happens. And in my mind was, oh, the set isn't working. I'm going to have to do a mini set. What am I going to do? Maybe I could do that thing about my mom. I could do that thing about, I could maybe take the piss out of the set not working, but then maybe I should do this. Oh, I've got that bit about that. And as I got to just about to open my mouth to go, sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen, and then start doing some jokes, a hand was on my shoulder and said, and this woman said, ladies and gentlemen, we're very sorry. There's been a malfunction with the set. Our actors will leave the stage and we'll be back with you as soon as they're fixed. And she escorted me off the stage. And I went, I'm an actor.
Oh, that must have felt nice.
I don't have to.
Because there's a comic.
I don't have to feel while something
Yeah,
happens.
because there's a comic, you have to feel the silence. And especially I feel like with you being there, you'd get an audience that are like, come on, like give us some material. But also I feel like as yourself, you're so used to being like, oh, I can make a joke.
Well, yeah, crowd work. I mean, oh, God, the set isn't working. I better do some crowd work while they sort it out. They didn't, ladies and gentlemen, I thought, oh, I'm at the National Theatre now. I don't have to do shit. I'm going to leave the stage. We're off stage for about 10 minutes. Then we came back on and just carried on with the scene. And it was beautiful. And there was one time when I was doing Fences and I was playing Troy Max and I walked on stage at the beginning with me and Colin McFarlane doing our Pittsburgh accents. And there was a geezer watching the football on his phone. He'd left his phone on. And I had to stop the show. Very, like 3 minutes into the show. And I've been talking like this. And then I went, excuse me. Can you turn your phone off, please? I'm really sorry. You can maybe watch maybe watch Match of the Day later on, but don't. This is a play. We're doing a play. Oh, audience love it. And we walked off and we started the play again. So it's like you're in a live situation. You are doing a show, but you're in a play. And usually the audience respect the play.
Yeah.
When they don't, if they're talking or if their phone goes, I think I've seen various people do it. Hugh Jackman did it on Broadway. Richard Griffiths used to do it. You stop the show and you say, please respect the show. It's a thing you can do.
Yeah. Speaking of the stage, you're back on tour.
Woohoo!
Is it after 16 years ago?
I haven't done a set for 15 years.
How are you feeling of going back on tour?
Well, Griff Rhys-Jones is going to be really happy because for the last 10 years, every single year, Griff rings me up and says, I'm doing this show in Ipswich and I want you to come and do a 10-minute spot. And I go, I haven't got, what do you mean a 10-minute spot? What am I going to do? Yeah. I literally have not done a set or assembled a set for 15 years.
Wow.
Because I was done with that. I wasn't going to do that anymore. And maybe in the future I would come back and do it like Seinfeld maybe. But right now I thought, no, I'm just going to do acting and I'm going to get on with that. So the last 2 shows on stage that I've done were August in England and then Every Brilliant Thing that Daniel Radcliffe is being so brilliant in New York. And they're one-person shows. And what I noticed, and what all my friends noticed was, I was really enjoying the interaction with the audience. You know, when I did August in England, which is about the Windrush scandal, there were quite a lot of black people in the audience, and black people join in. They start talking to you. Yes, that happened to me when I was 16 as well. They're talking to you. And when I was doing every Brilliant Thing, black people came to that. And they would start talking, yes, Lenny. No, I'm not Lenny in the show. I'm just playing a character who's doing the show for, this isn't Lenny. This isn't Lenny. But I noticed the audience wanted to join in.
Yeah.
I thought, I've got to do a set now.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've had 2 years of doing a one-person show where they want to talk to Lenny behind the character. So I just thought, let's start. And so that was about 2 years ago. So we started to just sit in a room like this with Max, who I work with, and just start to go, well, what's funny? What's funny about now? And that's been the difficult thing because part 1 is me doing a set, which is 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and part 2 is question and answer like this. So that's great. But putting a set, a credible set, where you come on and say, folks, great to be here, take my wife, please, that's difficult because you're going, this is what I used to do.
Yeah.
I want it to be as good as when I did it before, if not better. And it's hard because there's a lot of comedians out there now, and there's a lot of black comedians. They've got a lot to compare me to now, whereas they didn't before. And touch wood, what's been lovely is they're digging it. So hooray, long may it continue. I'm loving being on stage. I'm loving that the audience there are some young people there, but there's a lot of people that are my age with their wives. There's some kids, some millennials. And I'm just trying to be my authentic self and talk about things that make me laugh. And things that I've noticed in the last few years, talk about my new partner, talk about that stuff that I care about, talk about comic relief.
Is stand-up the thing that really keeps you up at night? Because for me anyway, it does in a sense of, when I have to write a new tour or, the day before I'm going to do a new tour show, I'm sitting there and I'm like, ugh, that bit, does that work? Does that not work? When I leave a show, especially on this tour I'm on at the moment, I drive myself to and from my shows, basically.
Do you?
Yeah. I just jump in the car there. I kind of like this having like maybe 2 hours to just be by myself. It gives me like a nice moment of like, I've got 2 hours. I can just either listen to a podcast. A lot of time I drive with just nothing on, no music on or anything. But I really like just the peace before the noise. It's the one thing that
when you get to the theatre, is it really noisy or something?
No, I think it's like once I'm on stage, I know I have to switch that on and I have to work with whatever's going on. And I've noticed my shows on the weekend are almost, it goes up by another 10-20% because people are, they've got babysitters now, so they want to get a drink. They want to hear some music, some tunes.
Music to see your show.
Yeah, and especially I think now because...
They've left the house.
But I've also got that sweet spot of an audience who, they work Monday to Friday. And I've got you on your weekend. Sometimes with the shows maybe on the Thursday and Friday, but the weekend shows, they're like, we're going to see Mo. We've got our tickets. We've had a meal.
It's going to be great.
Girlfriend's got her hair done. Yeah. I've got the car cleaned. Yes, we've even got a hotel. Do you know
Put
what I
on
mean?
clothes.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but like, I know that's I think before when I first started touring, it was quite a younger audience who were like, we don't know what we're paying for, but we're here for it. So I know I have to deliver that. So I think having that piece before I start is like, but then once I'm on, it's noise. I've got to be sharp. Sometimes, there might be an argument in the show. Like that's just an audience member who got there late and someone's sitting in their seats. I know my audience. So I'm like, that will probably happen. It's quite normal. So once it's happening and I'm in the, in the groove.
You can be in the mix.
Yeah, I might be telling a story and I've got everyone's attention, but something going on there. If I don't address it, it will just get louder.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So and you have to help.
Yeah, definitely, massively. But it is the thing that keeps me up at night. Stand-up is the one thing that's like...
I think you're right. And once your set's in you, do you do this? Do you run it in the night sometimes? Do you wake up in the night? Or do you not wake up? Do you just... Do you run the set in your dreams or something?
No, I leave it on stage.
Do you?
Yeah, when I drive home, I do think of like, oh, I like that bit, I didn't like that bit. But I do leave it on the stage in the sense of I have to have a reset. Once I go to bed, I'm sleeping.
Sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm working. Folks, great to be here. Good night. I'll just start doing it. My missus is like, what are you doing? I'm just running the show. Why are you running lines in bed? Just because there was that little bit. There's that bit where I slightly...
So you're like sleepwalking is it?
Yeah. But it's good. It works.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm in the car or on the train, I'll just close my eyes and I'll run the whole show. Like that. And then I get to the venue and I have a cup of tea and sit down, watch a podcast or watch telly and then turn that off and then get ready. And then the lead up to the show is mainly quiet. I don't really like people coming in. I don't like people coming in the dressing room before the show. But there's quite a lot of people who think it's all right to just barge in your room into your church. Oh man, I can't believe, so we're going to and I've got a promoter, they're my friends, but listen, they will be in the dressing room till 1 minute before showtime. And you have to get out now. I need like 3 minutes just to
be by
show
yourself.
Goes up 5 minutes late because I need to reset, I need to think, I need to have calm. And then you're on. And
see, I'm the opposite because I do like my close friends
to be around you.
Yeah. So, but it's always a natural. I never say, guys, come in. But if they're in the room before I'm going to start, we're having a joke, we're talking. Like some people having a drink and stuff. And I think I like that atmosphere a lot because when I normally go out, the first 10 minutes. I'm going to do crowd work anyway.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like I've gone from there with my friends. So by the time I get on stage, it doesn't feel so, oh God, everyone's here.
It's like you've been fluffed.
It's almost like, oh, but let's carry on where we left off, but with someone.
That's a good thing.
But then I definitely, before I jump out behind the curtain, I do need like 3-4 minutes just to like pray, go through set, warm up, get vocals ready, and then jump out. That's like... that's like
that
religious
right.
about that. Yeah.
Well done.
If I'm about to go out, like behind the curtain and someone's there, the worst thing you could do to me is like, hey, good luck.
No, please don't talk to me. I'm just about to go out there.
Hey, good luck, man. Good luck.
Lynn, listen, they're a bit worried about upstairs because what are you talking to me now for?
No. Leave me alone, please.
If you hear an insistent car alarm going up, I'll be all right.
Lenny, man, I'm going to wrap this up because I know you're a very, very busy man. But you see, like, for where you are in your life now of going on tour, and the things that you've done, the work you've done with like Comic Relief, raising over, it's like $1 billion almost.
It's more than $1 billion. It's nearly 2 billion, yeah.
Yeah. And like, you're a Sir, you're Sir Lenny. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not Lenny Henry, you're Sir Lenny. What do you start to look at, things like when the conversation of legacy comes in, because for myself, like you are one of my comedy inspirations. Do you know what I mean?
Very nice of you to
so like even to sit here in the room is like a big privilege and just hearing your stories, but also, being someone that has definitely benefited of, having my own show. You're someone who, set that precedent before anyone had ever seen it. And hearing the fact that you've had to have the same, you've got pressures and, whether it's threats or racism, but also the joys of knowing that there are people who are like getting insight to what the Black experience is like. And you being in the forefront of mainstream TV, one for a lot of us was like, I know this person, even though I don't know them. And I think that's why when I got to meet you at the BAFTAs, I was like, oh, this person that, is one of the reasons I do comedy is here and knows who I am. Because there's so many people within our community, but when we think of like front-facing people on television, it's only until I really started doing TV and I went to a BAFTAs, and it's great to be there, but then you do have this like, oh, right, where's everyone else? Like, I thought, because sometimes I think the perception can be, oh yeah, like when I get in there, I see this person in there and you're like, oh, they're not there. And what is it for you like in some ways where you start to look at, your legacy, the people you've inspired, but also the things that you still want to conquer and do? Like for you, even saying today that like you being back on stage after, 15, 16 years is like, yeah, like I care about this. Do you know what I mean?
I think in terms of the craft of it, I want to, I'll probably do another tour, maybe not next year, but the year after. But I want to go, things I've learned from this tour that I can now figure out what to do next. I was listening to Louis C.K. on a podcast with Mark Moran this morning, talking about building a set and not feeling away about putting that set to one side and starting a completely new one, just to see, and being braver, going out on stage and just talking and seeing what works and what doesn't work in an improvisational way. So that might be something in the future. I think I want to do more acting. I did a film with George Clooney, and I was only on it for a couple of days, but I just watching him, the way he handled himself, the lead of the movie, working with Adam Sandler, working with Laura Dern, and just seeing how he just was with the material, with the director. I learned a great deal from that. And it's really, I worked with Michael Palin recently. And what I want to do going forward, if the legacy could be like Comic Relief, and he made that thing about his mom, Three Little Birds, to me that would be all right. Comic Relief is extraordinary. And it's what's great is I'm a life president, but I'm not presenting it anymore, but it's carrying on. Young people are going, yeah, I'll do Comic Relief. And I think that's a really good thing, that people stay involved with it. And I got involved with it because post-Live Aid, the Ethiopia thing was still a thing. And I'm not from Africa, Ethiopia, but I grew up in Dudley. My parents are Jamaican. And I was always raised to sort of try and be of use, if there was a fete or charity thing, when I was coming up, even when I was 16, 17, 18, I was encouraged to, you should do that charity football match because they need the money. So when Comic Relief came along, I thought, I'm going to do that because they need help and I want to help. And now what's great is that there are people now who go, well, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to get involved. Yeah. And I think that's a very, very good thing. So Comic Relief, Three Little Birds I'm very proud of, even though we only did one series, but I was so proud that my mum and dad's story was on a screen where people in Dudley would say, we've watched it 3 times, is there going to be any more? Yeah.
So you allowed a lot of, it's a generation to be seen as well, where a lot of generations don't get seen.
But that's what you got to, the thing is, I challenge you to, you've talked about your family on stage, that deserves to be a narration, a story, a cycle, a myth. We've got to create these myths because, interestingly, our Caribbean storytelling is different to other storytellings. Our storytelling is directly linked to our home country. So the way we tell stories isn't like Western European canon. We tell stories in the bar, around the fire, or, at work, or, on long walk. We have different ways of communicating our authentic selves. And I think sometimes when you're in the industry, you realize, people, they're not buying into what I'm talking about because they're not used to hearing a story told like that. Yeah. And so I feel like with my production company, it's maybe get people to understand that, there's other ways to tell a story, not just in a inciting incident, break into part 2, B story. There's another way to do a story. You could start, look at Christopher Nolan. You could start in the middle. You could start at the end. You can keep going back to the end and then coming back. There's different ways to tell stories. So I like the idea of that. I love being on stage. So I want to do more of that. And I don't want to stop, really. I mean, people keep saying, I had an accountant say, one day, Lenny, when you're 50, you're not going to want to do this anymore. And I kind of looked at him like, are you mad?
Yeah.
What is better than this? We have the best job in the world. What is better than this? Go out on stage and walk out and start chatting foolishness about you. It's great.
Yeah.
You get to pretend to be somebody else. And I remember my mum telling me, what is that thing you're doing? And I was going around the corner like, dun, dun, dun. I was going around the corner like that. I said, I'm being James Bond. And she just looked at me like, okay. So I did characters all the time, but I just didn't know that was what I was doing. So, it's all come to fruition now. And on to the next. Do some good work. Work hard. Go home.
Oh, Lenny, man, it's been such a pleasure to have you on.
It's been an honor to be here. Thank you
Honestly,
for letting
on
me
my podcast.
come and talk to you.
Because I feel like whenever we see each other, it might be a passing an event or
we never
TV
get a chance to talk properly.
Do you know what I mean? And again, you're someone that's huge inspiration to myself, but a whole, do you know what I mean, generation. And also, big up, man, when we was at Buckingham Palace, like, my mum was like...
Stop talking about Buckingham Palace.
Nah, but my mum was so
like
made up when she
every
met
weekend.
you, But the way you done it, you made us feel so comfortable. I was like, I've never been here, but seeing you was like, what's up, Mo? You all right? I was like, yes, Mum. Hello, Mum. You all right? Yeah. I was like, all right, let's chill out, man. But no, honestly, thank you so much for doing this pod. I think the work you do is extraordinary, but, the legacy that you created and you still, are doing is, it's iconic, man. Do you know what I mean?
It's different now. You'll find it gets different the older you get, the kinds of things you want to do or whatever. But it's all a challenge. You're on a train. It's like you're moving you keep moving as the train's moving. And it's up to you if you want to jump off. But I say stay on and keep creating, keep generating the stuff you love to do. And your audience is on the train with you.
And speaking of that train, this stop has just finished. And this, my friend, has been your beginning, middle, and end. Thank you so much, Sir Lenny Henry.
Thank you very much.
Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Now, a lot goes into making each episode. I know you hear my voice, but there's a team behind the scenes who help make it. And if you did enjoy it, I'd really, really appreciate if you could show the love to them by giving us 5 stars. And if you also have the time, please leave us a review. It's always appreciated, and we love reading the comments. And of course, we want to keep making it better. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. Peace.